Story number 1. In St. Paul, Minnesota, there's a sprawling cemetery adorned with numerous trees, known as Oakland Cemetery. Adjacent to the cemetery runs Jackson Street, a thoroughfare boasting several bus stops, perhaps 4 or 5 in total. Some of these stops flank the cemetery, while others line the residential side of the street. Throughout St. Paul, myriad chilling tales abound about these bus stops. Even some Hmong bus drivers have encountered eerie phenomena while navigating these areas at night to pick up passengers. Among them was myself, a Hmong bus driver, grappling with limited English proficiency. Allow me to recount one such hair-raising experience. During my first 4 months as a bus driver, I traversed Jackson Street without encountering anything out of the ordinary while ferrying passengers. However, one frigid evening during the colder months, my routine was disrupted. As I drove, my gaze alighted upon a solitary figure at one of the bus stops adjacent to the cemetery, a young girl clad in a pink t-shirt and a white traditional Hmong skirt. Given the plummeting temperatures, nocturnal pedestrian traffic was scant. My bus accommodated a mere 6 passengers. Upon stopping, the girl boarded without acknowledging my greeting. I queried, "Hi, are you Hmong?" Yet, she remained silent, clutching what appeared to be a black shirt or jacket. She silently traversed the aisle, settling at the rear of the bus. Throughout the journey, I stole glances at her reflection in the rearview mirror, her visage obscured by cascading locks. As subsequent stops dwindled my passenger count, leaving only the girl and myself, I inquired about her intended destination. However, she merely inclined her head, offering no response. En route to the next stop, a couple boarded, momentarily diverting my attention. Upon returning my gaze to the rearview mirror, the girl had vanished. Concerned, I approached her seat, finding it conspicuously empty. A sense of dread gripped me as I searched beneath the seats, discovering only a traditional Hmong funeral shirt, a poignant revelation regarding her attire. Haunted by this encounter, I tendered my resignation 2 weeks later, unwilling to endure the unnerving ambiance of Jackson Street any longer. Every subsequent passenger prompted trepidation, as I feared encountering spirits or otherworldly entities. Even during my commute home, an eerie sensation lingered, as if an unseen presence occupied the car alongside me. Ultimately, I abandoned the job. Fellow bus drivers shared similar anecdotes, recounting instances where spectral figures appeared at bus stops, only to vanish upon closer inspection under the glare of headlights. Consequently, buses ceased picking up passengers near the cemetery after nightfall, shrouded in an aura of supernatural uncertainty. Story number 2. I used to drive past Oakland Cemetery all the time when we lived in that area. Working late nights as the manager of a fast food restaurant meant I often returned home late. While most of my drives were uneventful, there were 2 occasions that left me unsettled, and I'll share those experiences with you. I've heard that most scary occurrences happen on the other side of the cemetery, on Jackson Street. Despite driving past the cemetery at night frequently, I never encountered anything particularly eerie, although I often felt an uneasy presence in the car until I passed the cemetery. My family and I used to live on the corner of Sylvan and Jessamine Street, just 2 blocks down from Oakland Cemetery. Sylvan Street runs parallel to the cemetery, so every night after work, I had to drive on Sylvan Street to reach home, with the cemetery on my right side. One cold night, as snow began to fall in St. Paul, I was driving home from work. I wasn't going fast when, as I was about to pass the cemetery, I saw something, or someone huge, dart from the side of a house to the side of the cemetery in front of me. I quickly turned my car, but the road was slippery, causing my car to spin at the 3-way intersection of Sylvan Street and Cook Avenue. As my car completed a round, Its headlights beamed onto two large trees at the side of the cemetery. There, I saw a very tall figure in a black suit and white tie standing behind one of the trees. Only half of his left side was visible, as the other half was obscured by the tree. This figure was incredibly tall, perhaps around 8 feet, but I couldn't see his face. Terrified, I made a left turn and hurried home, convinced it was not a human. On another summer night, after closing the restaurant at 2 a.m., I drove home in my little pickup truck. With hardly any cars on the street, I noticed a vehicle following not too far behind. As we passed Hatch Avenue, the car behind me activated its sirens. Unsure it was a cop car, I slowed down and pulled over near the cemetery. The officer emerged, waving his flashlight and instructing me to get off the trunk. Confused, I rolled down my window to communicate. The officer mentioned seeing two individuals peeking out from the trunk while he was driving behind me. After shining his light in the trunk and back seat, he bid me good night, and we both drove off. It was one of the creepiest experiences I've had by the cemetery road. Story number 3. My family and I used to reside in one of the houses on Sycamore Street, just a few blocks from Oakland Cemetery in St. Paul, Minnesota. Given the large population of Hmong individuals buried there, we were well aware of its significance. This cemetery, with its roots tracing back to the early 1800s, bears testament to its age, with some tombstones dating as far back as the 1840s. During the summer, the cemetery exudes a serene charm, thanks to its lush greenery and majestic old trees. The ample shade and gentle breezes make it an inviting spot for outdoor activities. Given our proximity to the cemetery, my husband, boyfriend at the time, and I often enjoyed leisurely bike rides through its winding pathways during the daytime. Despite its somber purpose, the cemetery's tranquil ambiance makes it akin to a serene park. My husband's late mother, my mother-in-law, was laid to rest at Oakland Cemetery. According to my husband, his mother died after experiencing a massive heart attack, during which she felt as though someone was standing on her chest, making it difficult for her to breathe. Initially, following her interment, my mother-in-law appeared in her children's dreams, guiding them to a village where she resided in the afterlife. According to my husband and his family, this dream village mirrored a Hmong community in Southeast Asia, complete with vibrant social activities like volleyball and soccer. These recurring dreams, particularly affecting my husband, prompted the family to seek guidance through a shamanic ritual. During the ritual, the shaman revealed insights into Hmong beliefs, suggesting that upon death, individuals possess 3 souls. One reunites with ancestors, another reincarnates, and the third guards the grave. In the case of my husband's mother, the soul guarding her grave expressed a desire to bring her children to the idyllic village where she now dwelled. The shaman assured the family that he had rectified the situation, but cautioned my husband against visiting the cemetery, especially for non-family funerals. Heeding the shaman's advice, my husband and I ceased our visits to the cemetery, eventually tying the knot after years of courtship. Despite our relocation to a new residence, the cemetery remained a poignant memory. However, fate intervened when a relative passed away, necessitating a return to Oakland Cemetery for the funeral. While paying respects to our departed relatives' graves, my father expressed admiration for the tranquil beauty of the cemetery, remarking on its appeal as a final resting place. My father said to my mother, "This country is so nice that even their cemeteries are so beautiful. When I die, I wouldn't mind being buried here too." My mother, however, chided him for his flippant comment. Little did we know that this visit would foreshadow a tragic turn of events. Just a month later, my father experienced a sudden onset of chest pain, akin to someone pressing down on his chest, accompanied by breathlessness. Despite my mother's attempts to alleviate his discomfort, he succumbed to a massive heart attack, echoing the symptoms that preceded my mother-in-law's demise. Subsequently, my father was laid to rest alongside my mother-in-law at Oakland Cemetery. Whether his untimely passing was linked to his casual remark or an underlying heart condition remains unclear. However, the uncanny parallels between their deaths left us unsettled. In the aftermath of my father's passing, my mother reported dreams of him leading her to the dream village at the cemetery. However, these visions ceased after her remarriage. While it's tempting to dismiss these occurrences as mere coincidence, the eerie connections give pause for thought. Hence, I offer a word of caution. Exercise restraint in your words and actions when visiting a cemetery, particularly one steeped in cultural significance. Story number 4. Many years ago, my husband, our children, and I still lived in one of the houses by Oakland Cemetery in St. Paul. The houses there are long but straight, with the front door and the back door aligned. Some people believe that living in houses where the front and back doors are aligned is unlucky, but as Hmong, we do not hold such beliefs. In Oakland Cemetery, many of our Hmong are buried. One day, one of my distant sisters passed away. Her name is Mai. I cannot mention why she passed away, as it is forbidden, and she didn't want too many people to know, so I will not mention it here. We watched Mai take her last breath, and once she died, I helped the aunties and grandma put the Hmong funeral clothes on her. I remember wrapping the long red and green sash around her waist, and I noticed how rough the fabric felt. When Mai was alive, she visited our house a few times with her husband. Her husband and mine are good friends and love to take fishing trips together. I was a bit scared when I learned she would be buried at Oakland Cemetery. It was just too close to where we lived, but I tried to dismiss my fears. About 4 days after she was buried, my husband worked the night shift, not returning until 8 a.m. I was watching a Thai drama after putting the kids to bed. It was around 10:30 p.m. when I heard a light knock at the front door. At first I thought I was imagining things, but the knocks persisted. When I went to look, I saw no one outside. Returning to my seat, I heard knocks coming from the sliding glass door at the back. Instead of going to the glass door, I checked the kitchen window, but saw nothing outside. Feeling frightened, I went to bed. I remember trying to sleep on my side, but when I turned onto my back, I felt something at the foot of my bed. It felt like the fabric of the long red and green sash I wrapped Mai in. Frozen with fear, I pretended to sleep, unsure how long she had been there. Thinking I was imagining things, I pressed my toe against the fabric. It moved, confirming someone was sitting at the foot of my bed. I quickly got up, grabbed my blanket, and left the room, too scared to stay. The next day, I told my husband, tears in my eyes. He comforted me, but also arranged for a shaman to investigate and perform a house-sweeping ritual. The shaman concluded that it was Mai, stopping by to say goodbye and assure me she was no longer suffering. She tried to tell me in a dream, but I was awake, which might have scared me. After the ritual, I never encountered her again. To this day, I haven't dreamt of Mai. I knew she didn't mean to scare me, but I was frightened. That's all for this video. Thank you for making all the way through and supporting my stories. Have a wonderful day or night.